Oh, boy. Oh, gosh.
Oh, geez.
We're back, and we're getting swole today.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we watched Michael Bay's magnum opus, Pain&Gain. Why? Because we're doers.
Because we're doers.
Right. We're doers.
We're doers.
That's right.
Look at these pecs.
Pain&Gain. Next up on the Dead-Eyed Millennial Film Club. We're back. Oh, that's right. That's right. We're back. And before we get into this movie, this masterpiece,
film,
one of my favorite movies, suddenly, I need to introduce my co-host. I'm Jason Hillman, and my co-host, Becky Franzel.
Pastel.
That's not how you pronounce it, but I can see you. You're doing great being quirky.
Pastel.
Yeah. Becky Franzel. Mostly because she's trying to pretend she's not American right now.
Canadian.
She's trying to pretend she's not from here right now, which is completely understandable. So, Pain&Gain, what'd you think, Becky?
Well, I'm feeling thoroughly inspired for all the wrong reasons, I'd say. Well, I mean, it's truly a rags to riches story. You have three, young blokes with swole pecs and big dreams go out there and they manifest. They manifest, baby.
It's what The Secret's about.
Exactly. It's the plot of The Secret.
Yeah, exactly.
They go out there, they manifest their dreams, they live their reality, and then, shit happens.
What was his saying? You ask for what you deserve and it serves or something?
You're talking about the commercial?
The Lugo. Yeah. Whatever Ken Jeong's...
The one thing that everyone would say, and then he'd be like, oh, it's the commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Pain&Gain, 2013 movie... starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Mackie, Tony Shalhoub, Rebel Wilson, David Cordry, and Ed Harris, of course. Honestly, when I saw this movie the first time, I found it to be kind of needlessly cynical, over the top in its violence. It seemed to me like Michael Bay trying to grasp some self-awareness and make an indie flick, and I enjoyed it. But there is something about the way it plays now that is crazy. The economic conditions seem to be the same place. Like the desperation. At the time, we were in the middle of the Obama years. Liberals had it good. We could pretend things were going all right. Like the economy seemed okay. It was in recovery from 2008. But now we're in this place.
It's way more relatable now.
We're post-COVID. We've got this situation where workers seem to be getting punished by corporate interests for having the audacity during COVID to believe or start dreaming of a better way of working. And what they were rewarded with was higher prices, lower wages, layoffs, and the top 1% of people accumulating billions, trillions of dollars of worth. Whereas when you watch this movie in 2013, it's easy to go, Daniel Lugo is a moron and a desperate, sad asshole.
Right. It makes him seem impulsive. Now we're all impulsive.
Now, yeah, we're all scraping by. And Daniel Lugo, the moron, is coming off as more the hero. And Tony Shalhoub's, what is his name?
You're talking about the guy they kidnapped?
Victor Kershaw, which is Victor Kershaw. His character... You're supposed to have sympathy for him when you're watching it, even though he's an asshole. But I've got nothing for that guy now.
No.
It's crazy, and I want what he's got. But now the idea of working for it seems impossible, because we worked towards that. And then I had
well, that door is shut now, right? Before the door was kind of swinging open. Like if you really, really pushed hard, that metal door would open. But now it's bolted shut.
We had nest eggs, and they're gone. Suddenly, over the course of a few years, and it's crazy. We're not gonna kidnap a guy and keep him at a warehouse and force him to sign over all their stuff, but there's an empathetic side to that guy's character that I latched to. It's a crazy movie to watch in 2024 because it was a movie I enjoyed.
But I definitely read it differently this time. Yeah. I could relate with Michael Lugo's character, or Daniel Lugo's character a lot more. I didn't want to, right? Because it's all it's all of those base instincts that everyone gets when they look at their bank account and it's $5, right? And you have 17 bills the next day. The same thing comes out when you see him concocting this plan, right?
What do you mean?
As in the same impulses that he has to make this plan happen, the same like impulsive drive that he has that isn't like fully thought through. He just is a doer. He just does, right?
I think the difference is to the way that you can differentiate yourself is he worked, but he didn't work hard for stuff. I think that the difference is like, I've watched a lot of people. I'm one of them. You're one of them. We've watched a lot of people who've worked very hard all their lives, put a lot of their lives and energy, sacrifice time with themselves, with their family, friends, to give themselves a standard of living that's reasonable. And they were told that, and if they got sick, all that money's gone. Or if their interest rates go up on the loan that they could afford at the time goes up, their stuff is gone. And this has already happened once already to this generation. And so something like he wanted something he hadn't.
Well, he wanted that inherited wealth, right?
He wanted to be born into wealth, right? But he didn't have any taste of his own. That's the difference. He had no taste of his own. He wanted to steal someone else's taste.
To be fair, he only had a month, though. So do you think if he would have had it for longer, he would have found his taste? I would argue yes. Because I feel like it's kind of like when you think about, like, when I first started writing, I adopted other writers' voices because I didn't know what my own voice was until I was there for long enough that I was given the liberty to find my own voice.
That is a good question. And that brings us to a part where we should explain the plot a little bit. Yeah. Now, in the mid-90s, there was, and it's been reduced, as all true stories do, this is three main guys, and they kidnap this guy, and they hold him for ransom. Well, they hold him inside of a warehouse, and they basically torture him until he signs over every single one of his assets, and then they go live the high life. These are three bodybuilders, one of which suffers from impotence, the other one suffers from narcissism, and then Dwayne Johnson's character shows up, and he's a born-again Christian, got out of prison, steroid abusing.
He was steroid abusing.
Jesus. And so he decided he wanted to be part of this plot too. He eventually falls apart. So they have him sign over all these assets. They use David Cordry's character is a notary, so he is convinced by Daniel Lugo to...
Which is also a bonkers plot point, right? Like, because Daniel Lugo, by all intents and purposes, is incredibly untrustworthy. And I have no idea why he would even be like, oh, yeah, this totally makes sense.
What do you mean? Well, they were buds. And it was Daniel Lugo who brought all the business to his gym. The gym was non-existent, basically. He had no clientele.
Because of his charisma.
Charisma. He brought in all those people, but he wasn't reaping the benefit of it. Everyone else was reaping the benefit of his hard work, which was the crux of his entire argument for doing what he was doing.
Right, because he's a doer.
He's a doer.
He's a doer.
He's a self-help dude.
Text. Yeah.
He one of those guys who like reads a bunch of self-help and goes to a bunch of self-help seminars, and because he's told that he deserves it, he just goes out and he gets it no matter what.
That was a really difficult scene to watch too. The 5-minute scene where he's in the self-help thing, and you just recognize all the people in the audience, right? Like, everyone's met the people in the audience who are at that desperate point where they're like, sure, I'll pay fucking $2,000 for this seminar, and everyone in their life is like, oh my God, you don't have $2,000 for this. This is a scam. What are you doing?
You'd be better off throwing that into Bitcoin.
Right.
You'd be better off throwing that into like the stock market or any other bad investment.
Right.
But paying someone else to tell you, making them rich by telling you what to do with your life, even though you aren't them in any way, shape, or form, and you're not wired that way.
Right.
If you're not wired like Tony Robbins, you're not going to do Tony Robbins shit.
Well, and also Tony Robbins. Did I ever tell you about when I interviewed for Tony Robbins?
No.
It was the creepiest. It was like I got to the second round of interviews, and the first interview was with just this guy. And it was like a 5-minute interview where he basically said like, oh, we think you're good. We'll put you to the next round. Second interview was with him and his wife. And he's talking to me about how he met his wife through Tony Robbins, through working with Tony Robbins. And if I'm not in 100% with Tony Robbins, then I'm not going to be a good fit. And I better get used to working excessive hours and up. And this was for a job that was $35,000 a year.
Oh, and he would have tried to fuck you.
Oh, yeah. It's the whole point, right? It's like a NXIVM kind of thing.
Right, because that's if you come out, out.
To be fair, it was remote, so maybe not.
Okay,
but still, it was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever had in my life, and I've had some weird ones.
I love that idea that like we saw you from across the bar and really like your vibe. Weird. We can't wait to exploit you for every ounce of strength you have left.
Well, and I remember the interview because I was like, oh well, maybe like Tony Robbins is a good name, maybe that's a good place to advance. But from the first interview, it was like, holy fuck. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, these people are so unorganized, and it's just so brainwashed.
Because there's no substance to it.
Right.
It's church without the backing. It's church without the sponsorship.
Oh, no, it's church still. Because the person...
Yeah, but you don't have a millennia of bullshit to call on.
I mean, I'd argue that a lot of New Age religions are very similar, right?
Well, they're all ripping each other off. Yeah, they're all taking the platitudes and ignoring all the sexual assault and incest and the destruction of places because people were, let me check my notes here, enjoying themselves. Yeah,
pleasure is not compatible.
Oh.
I was listening to something, this is completely off topic.
Sure.
I was listening to something on the Mormon religion about how Mormons really go against masturbation. And the reason that this former Mormon was saying that was, he was saying that everyone masturbates. Ergo, if the church goes against it, they have a lot of people to feel bad and to come to them to go for like penance and therapy and things like that. So they take this problem that air quotes, that everyone has, and they make you feel bad for it. So then you're dependent on it.
Yeah.
Right. And like, it was an interesting perspective to me. I don't know if that's exactly right.
Well, I mean,
but it makes sense.
If we're going to tie that into Pain and Gain, it's the same kind of mentality that has people going to the gym.
Right.
If your pecs aren't popping, you aren't worthy. You aren't a man. If you aren't smashing pussy, you aren't a man. If you aren't rich, you aren't a man. And we come to this like weird contradiction where if you have no money, you're morally wrong. Now, but if you have too much money, you're also morally wrong. And this morally wrong guy is justified in taking your stuff because you're more morally wrong because you have money.
Right.
But this guy's a nice morally wrong guy because he gives all the money to charities that take care of the problems that his wealth has created.
Right.
And so there's that mentality isn't just Mormons, it's for everybody. Like our culture demands that you feel bad about literally everything that you do and are and aren't and could not be. It's a constant barrage of feeling terrible.
Once you get to a certain tax bracket, you don't have to take the high. Yeah.
Once you reach a certain tax bracket, Elon Musk is one of the stupidest, most evil men that exists. And everyone follows every one of his words as if it's gospel. Well, and everything that comes out of his mouth is the stupider than the last thing that came out of his mouth. But he's got $40 trillion, so he must be smart.
Well, and back to like the Daniel Lugo thing is like...
This is why we're master podcasters.
Yeah. We were talking about this earlier, where Kershaw's former neighbors were like, oh, I didn't even know he moved out. As Daniel Lugo's like using his shit and saying like, oh yeah, he just moved out really quick, you know.
Well, he tied it into an immoral sexual act.
Exactly.
So that everyone will be justified in their loathing of him.
Right.
Didn't even notice.
And as he's like talking to their kids as if they're like his like buddies, right? Like talking like, oh, you want to smash that girl to like a 5-year-old.
But it was this real like kind of desperate need to fit into a community and feel wanted and needed and loved.
And they did, though. But they did,
yes.
Because he had the money.
Right.
Which is wild, right?
Money and the power.
I mean, granted, this is a fictionalized version of a true story, but I can see it. I mean, we see it happen all the time. I can think of like one specific neighbor when I was growing up who was rich and really fucked up, right? And like I would say like, oh no, he's a creep, and nobody would believe me because, oh no, that's just him.
That's just the way he is.
Just him.
Yeah.
Oh no, why do you think that he's a creep? You know, and there's that kind of like moral barrier. If somebody has enough money, oh, they must be doing something right. So ergo, they're not doing anything bad.
Well,
or if they have too much money, then they are doing something bad. But like we can do nothing to stop it because you know they have too much power.
I mean, it completely insulates you if you're powerful enough. I mean, when people were talking, these right-wing douchebags were screaming for years, show me the Epstein files.
Right.
And then it turns out that their rich buddy that they're desperate to get the approval of is on those logs more than anyone else.
Right, exactly.
And now it's...
doesn't even matter.
It doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Who cares? Like, and that's the wild thing is like, you can show... It doesn't really... These people are untouchable once you get to a certain, like, tax bracket. And then once those people have all the wealth, right? And because wealth is finite for God knows why, that's why I'm not in finance, I don't understand, then once they accumulate that wealth, they're never going to give it up because now they're not giving to charities. Now they're not, building things for their cities.
It's crazy how quickly you can betray your own values when money comes along. I don't think there's a clearer cut example of that in recent times in terms, like, politically than, like, Kristen Sinema.
Yeah.
Arizona. She was the quirky 90s dressed socialist who wanted higher wages and better conditions for workers.
That one was sad.
And then as soon as she got into government, within 2 years, she had betrayed her constituents. It's a little Fetterman-like, except she didn't suffer brain damage.
Yeah.
She just suffered bank damage. She increased her wealth by 100% and then suddenly had nothing to do with who she was years prior.
I do wonder if we would avoid some of this if there was, like, less, if we had more of a social safety net, right? Like, if people knew that if they didn't make these corrupt decisions, they would still be able to eat and they would still have some sort of housing. Do you think that corruption would still exist as much, as rampant as it is now?
Well, that's the thing, is the social services need to always be in constant threat of being ripped from you so that you have something to be desperately clinging to.
Right.
That's how our system works. We don't have employees in this country. We have indentured servitude.
Right.
Constantly. And if you're in prison, you just slave labor then.
Right.
But it's every bit of power is devoted to making sure conditions remind you that you are constantly on the verge of homelessness and imprisonment. So work hard for this overlord because it could be worse. And the middle class existed as like this real, like this cudgel against the lower classes. So you could pretend like you had stuff,
right,
even though you couldn't really afford it,
right.
And so therefore,
it's like
you could pretend that you were better than these people down here.
Yeah.
But the middle class doesn't exist anymore. It is the wealthy and the poor at variations on poverty, which lead to conditions.
Granted, it's ultra wealthy, and then there's comfortably wealthy, and then there's poor, right? Like there's the Jeff Bezos, then there's your family surgeon, then,
Yeah. It's so the conditions lend themselves to what this movie is about. Again, and in the 90s, we had just come out of the economic conditions of the 80s in Reaganomics when the trickling down started. The idea that we could give more money to corporations, give more money to the wealthy, and that it'll all trickle down here. And if we cut the social services and we give all that money to the wealthy, that money will come trickling down for us.
Right.
And Daniel Lugo might not have been the smartest guy on the block, but he understood he was never, ever going to get what he wanted, honestly.
I would argue that he's braver than, like, me, right? I would never do what Daniel Lugo did. But do I want what Daniel Lugo had? Fuck yeah. Absolutely.
But even if it's at the expense of lives and you only have it for a month and a half?
Okay,
because he's a moron,
make me sound like an asshole. But look at the life that he impacted. When I look at somebody like Elon Musk, I want Elon Musk to suffer like the people in his factories, right? Like, I want them to suffer like the people who are mining his lithium batteries. I do, even if it's for a month. I just want him to have that perspective.
Do you honestly think that he would gain that perspective?
No, but at least the opportunity would be presented to him to gain that perspective.
Do you remember Undercover Boss when they made the guy do like an hour of labor and he was like, "Wow, you guys are really working hard. This is awful. I hate this."
Yeah. I know it wouldn't happen, but just the idea of making him reap what he's sown.
Yeah.
Right? There's some sort of justice there, and maybe that makes me an asshole. I don't know, because I honestly don't think we should look at society and say, like, oh, well, you haven't suffered as much as me, ergo you're not working hard. I don't believe in that at all. But there needs to be some sort of recompense for the ultra-wealthy who are making people work this hard for absolute pennies.
Now, do you think Victor Kershaw, Mark Schiller in real life, do you think that after this occurred?
Oh, he learned nothing. You could tell because he was so hurt by it, right? Which, I mean, rightfully so. It was pretty fucking traumatic. But he also had that indignation where he, like, even when the scene where they were interviewing the girl who worked at his sub shop was fascinating because the detective was like, "Oh, what did you think about the previous owner?" And she was like, oh, he would constantly call me fat and say, like, the world hunger could be solved if I stopped snacking.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then what do you think of Daniel Lugo? Oh, he's magnificent, right?
Yeah.
So I would argue that there is this malignant sort of evil that these ultra-wealthy people have that cannot be solved. Like, it's a sickness. It's a psychopathy. Like, it's fucking crazy. Like,
sure.
why would somebody like Gwyneth Paltrow need to build another company? Don't you already have enough money? Like, what is your company solving outside of getting
maybe
more
her
capital?
kink is getting people to shove ceramic eggs up their hoo-has.
The fucking Yanni stone.
Yeah.
Started. Christ.
I mean, she did get what's coming to her. Someone destroyed her guest room. Did you hear about that? That dude, like, had such violent diarrhea in her guest room, he, like, literally fled.
That's delightful.
That's how you take it to the rich.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Start the rich.
So we have Daniel Lugo, and again, back to the physical qualities, the attributes that make up a man. The other guy, Anthony Mackie's Adrian Doorball, he thinks he pumps iron, but he's not getting anywhere. Mm-hmm. And the steroids he used to get there have made him impotent. Mm-hmm. And his impotence is a metaphor for his masculinity.
Right.
And so he wants to take on this job because he needs the money to get the surgery to give him his masculinity.
For that virility.
Yeah.
Well, even after they do the one job, he still needs more because he needs the surgery.
He needs the surgery over and over again. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he marries
the dick doctor.
Rebel Wilson.
Which perfect casting.
You know, she seems to be very angry at the way her early roles panned out, but there are moments of genius, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Where she knows what she's there for, which is to be mocked, but to be the smartest person in the room.
Right.
And
her character was super relatable, too, because who hasn't been in a relationship where you're like, oh my God, like, this is exactly what I've been looking for. We deserve this. This is, he's
Absolutely.
working hard.
Right.
I don't see any problem. And then to be fair, their wealth wasn't that extravagant. They were living in like a ranch. So why is that fucking crazy, right?
That's the thing is they weren't extravagant. The only extravagant one was Dwayne Johnson's character, Paul Doyle.
I would argue Lugo was too.
He was extravagant, but he didn't buy anything new.
He just used
someone else's shit.
Yeah. Outside of the lawnmower.
Did he buy a new lawnmower?
Yeah, the no-turn lawnmower.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What he bought was legitimacy as a human person in a society.
Dignity.
In a culture. Dignity. That's
yeah.
right. And he just went about it in a completely undignified, stupid way.
Yeah, because again, it's baby's first million, right?
Yeah.
And that I think the writing analogy is apt, obviously, because I made it. But like, when you first start anything, you're going to be imitating other people who are doing it because it's your first steps, right?
Right.
And if you grew up not having, then you're not going to understand what it's like to have. So obviously you're going to spend your money on a bunch of dumb shit for a while because you don't know what it's like to have those things.
Right. That's exactly.
So you don't know what's like. That's what bothers me when rich people are like, oh, well, like you have to learn to use your money properly, but there's no guide on how to do that, you know? Like, even working with a financial advisor, it's infuriating because there's no right way to do it. Because interest rates could change tomorrow.
A financial advisor is still only interested in getting the commission for working with you and to have access to your wealth. If anything, a financial advisor, when you're giving your money over to somebody to make investments for you, when you convince somebody that you're some kind of genius that deserves to have your money given to you, your money given to me so that I can manipulate the market with your money, you're doing the same thing with a more culturally acceptable sheen on it.
Right.
Those guys like Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff was a respectable man who respectable people gave all of their respectable money to because he stole your money in a way that was acceptable and publicly in a way that everyone said is good.
Right.
He manipulates this imaginary stock market and puts your money into these imaginary investments. He's the same as Daniel Lugo. They're the same person.
Right.
They're both fucking trash, but they're both trash who wanted more than their actual grasp could reach. It's just that Bernie Madoff had started his career as someone who was legitimate and became illegitimate because he got obsessed with the wealth.
Right.
The difference between him and Daniel Lugo is the size of their first apartment.
Daniel Lugo just didn't have the right people who trusted him right at the get, right? And that he wasn't given the money legitimately, so he had to find a way to get the money.
I mean, you want to talk about Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein is like this weird construct of a person.
Yeah.
Because he's never, he was a financier, a disgraced financier. He was an investor. He moved people's money. Whose money?
Mm-hmm.
Where did the money come from?
Right.
For by all accounts, he stole the guy who owned Victoria's Secret's entire fortune.
Yeah.
Or he stole...
But he lived on his property for a while, too.
Or
there's a really weird story
Ghislaine
there.
Maxwell's dad. His fortune disappeared, but all of a sudden Epstein's got a fucking fortune.
Right.
Epstein was that dude.
Yeah.
He stole the money.
He was just quieter.
Yeah.
He knew when to shut up, versus Daniel Lugo maybe did not.
These guys are only viewed...
Or maybe not. I don't know. Like, because Epstein also didn't shut up. So maybe it's just luck, right?
I feel like Epstein was a lot quieter than, like, a Daniel Lugo.
But Epstein also bought his own town. Sure. So, like, I'm not sure.
A town that no one knew about until it was revealed.
For sure. I guess.
He bought a lot of secret locations.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Versus doing it in Miami.
Mm-hmm. Miami was actually where he first got charged. Miami is a perfect location for secret cabals of wealth. Yeah. Miami's the DA of Miami. Was he the DA then? Later the Attorney General for Trump gave him a super sweet deal, but he was like manipulating teenagers into giving him massages in Miami.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. Okay.
So Miami is like this real place of both wealth and trash and degradation within a mile of each other.
Do you think it's because Epstein knew the right people?
It is because Epstein knew the right people.
Versus Daniel Lugo didn't. So again, it's baby's first million.
It's poverty. It's poverty theft versus wealth theft, right? The poor steal stupidly, I guess.
It's because they don't have access to the resources to maintain the wealth.
And to your point, he's braver.
Yeah.
Because he went out there and did it on his own with no connections. Mm-hmm. He used one connection to finish the job because he couldn't get the properties without a notary witness signature on there. And so he used his friend, who was a notary, to get that done.
Right.
Which is crazy. But
it's crazy that the notary went along with it. That's the crazy part. That's insane.
I mean, he got a lot of benefit out of it.
For sure. Yeah, he got the sponsorship. Right. But also at the same time, like, that's a huge fine.
Literally everyone involved just wanted a better life for themselves.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to handle a better life for themselves. Which brings us to Dwayne Johnson's Paul Doyle.
I know. What a perfect character.
What a perfect character. What a perfect job by Dwayne Johnson. He's a revelation in this thing. At the time, it was like, Dwayne Johnson's great in this. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, he was humble in it.
After watching Ballers, which is a fascinating insight into how he began to view himself, because the first two seasons are him being incredibly vulnerable and him being maybe one of this decade's most interesting character actors. And then the third season on, he is invulnerable. He wins every fight. There are no stakes. There are no consequences. And he becomes $7 Dwayne Johnson, who has built this mythology, he can't lose kind of thing. Ballers is fascinating. Anybody who's listening, if you want to deep dive into that, let us know. We can talk about that.
We'd love to.
Yeah. So Dwayne Johnson is fascinating in this because he is a man who is humbled. He's huge, but he's humble. He's scared. He's desperate.
He's huge, but he's small.
He's like a real Lenny character.
Yeah.
He's got real Lenny energy where he's just like, I just want to have the nice place, and I want to love the Jesus and pet the rabbits.
Well, especially when he beats the priest up, because it doesn't show him beating the priest up. It does a zoom out. It just shows his big body with the priest on the ground. Right? Like, and that's an interesting choice.
It's about how he feels about his masculinity, not expressing that until later. But it only shows him being really violent once. And that's when he's he goes, he's hungry again and he needs money because he's put it all up his nose.
Right. But there's Lenny's a good description of it because he seems out of control with it, right? It feels like Lenny with the rabbit.
Except that he has an iota of self-awareness where Lenny didn't have any.
Yeah.
Where he figures out that he just can't do this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
He turns on them. He ends up getting a much lesser sentence, and he seems, by all accounts, as having a normal, functional life at the moment.
It is interesting that he became friends with Kershaw, right? Because that was what brought him to like rat on his friends.
Yeah, but that's the Lenny stuff right there. Kershaw wasn't actually his friend.
No,
Kershaw was faking it. Yeah,
right.
And he was just very desperate to have a like-minded friend to talk to. I just want to have the
the sobriety thing. I think Kershaw said he was sober. Or something.
Yeah. And I think he started figuring it out when they told him to run him over, and then they were like, "I can't believe you did that."
Yeah,
I mean, you did. We did that. You did that, bud. That's when he started really putting together that he was in trouble. He, of course, ends up with the model that Lugo had been going out with, who he had convinced they were CIA agents. And
I want an update on her.
I think that she's doing fine now.
That's great.
Let's see.
I always wish the best for those people because they're just very, like, she did nothing wrong, ever.
From what I can gather here...
Maybe she did.
She, basically...
Did she get some sort of deal?
Yeah, she testified against them, and, she testified against them. Adrian's wife testified against, him. Robin, Rebel Wilson's character, testified against them, and I think that they basically got out of trouble because they had no idea what was going on.
Right.
And they didn't take part in the thefts. I think that Sabina, or Serena is her character in the movie. Sabina, this is what happens when you read a wiki about the reality of it. Her I think she had more to do with the robberies than she indicated in the movie, but they got off pretty well. Whereas Lugo and Adrian ended up with the death penalty.
Right.
And Paul Doyle, who was actually 3 characters, that character, the person he's mostly playing, which is Carl Weeks, got 15 years, served 7, got out, seems to be living a fine life, and found Jesus, born again, sober, having the time of his life.
Yeah.
And in the middle of all this is Ed Harris, who is a detective that ends up hooking up with Kershaw because no one believes him because of where he's from and because he's an asshole. And Ed Harris basically is the one who cracks the whole thing open. It really is just a thriller mystery that is about the desperation of the American dream. So they all end up getting caught because they end up trying to steal from do the same thing to a phone sex operator. But because Daniel Lugo's ego is so wrapped up in his being able to succeed at his stupid schemes, he ends up accidentally killing the guy because he insults him and says he doesn't trust them. It's just the hubris of desperation, the ego at the heart of the plot, is what kills them, just like in any other heist plot that goes horribly wrong.
But it's honestly more relatable than any other heist plot because it shows that vulnerability of, like, this is where you are. And, like, everyone's been there where you're, like, 2 months late on a bill and you're like, how the fuck am I going to pay this? Right?
I mean,
everyone's been there.
That ego kills. It's the same thing as, like, if you watch a movie like Heat, where the burglars or the robbers are incredibly disciplined. Don't invest in something aren't worth. You can't walk out on in 30 seconds flat. Even he, at the end of that movie, his ego, his demand to have balance and justice has him making terrible moves, and he ends up getting caught and dead.
Right, because the only thing we want is stability, right? And, like, sometimes in some people's definition of that, it's extravagant, right?
And he could have had stability, and he gave up on that so he could have vengeance.
Right.
Still the same part of the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was going after Waingro, the big guy who betrayed them. But it's that thing that drives, it's the masculinity, this idea that you can't rest until you fulfill some certain thing.
Right.
Is unnecessary.
Well, it's the hero's journey, right?
Sure, yeah, except the arc is wrong. The hero's journey is supposed to be like inciting incident, running into problems, overcoming adversity, success.
Right.
What happens is these guys go on the hero's journey and they skip the last couple of parts.
The success parts?
They skip the part where you make it through adversity without...
Would you say, I mean, I would say they still went through adversity even if it's corrupt,
but they created their own adversity later.
Yeah.
Right? Because the hero's journey is predicated on the idea that external forces are pressing against you and you must overcome them to find your way to the top of the mountain. They create their own animosity. They create their own drama. They create their own inciting incident. They could have either invested the money better. They could have cut their dead weight. Because Dwayne Johnson's character, Paul, he was dead weight. He was dragging them down. They could have just gotten rid of him. But instead, they put themselves in a position where they'd have to keep repeating the inciting incident. The inciting incident was their poverty. they kept having to repeat that over and over and over again. So their success would never actually come. The hero's journey is supposed to end.
Wouldn't we? But I mean, when we're talking about like the American dream and things like that, is there ever an end point to it? Because unless you're born into wealth, ultra wealthy, Elon Musk bullshit.
Super good point.
Can you ever fulfill the hero's journey?
That's a great point.
Right?
Because your life isn't... Joseph Campbell has ruined a century of men. Let me just throw that out there. It is giving them the impression that they are destined for greatness, that they are part of some great external narrative, and that everything that they run into is merely a problem to be overcome on their way to their destined glories. Maybe life is bad, and bad things just happen, and you shouldn't have to go through them. You should be able to find your way to success and glory without having to get punched in the face multiple times.
Right.
The hero's journey is great for narratives. It's a great writing exercise, and it makes for great 3-act structures. But the hero's journey as a way of living is destructive.
Right.
Because it has you thinking that all these terrible things that keep happening to you and keep traumatizing you, that's just what I have to go through on the way to the top of the mountain, baby. Gonna slay that dragon. That dragon is gonna eat you, dude.
And it's dissociation versus dealing with it, right?
Absolutely. It's delusion and dissociation.
Right. Once you realize that sometimes those things happen and that you may not get that reward, that's the best, like, as much as it sucks to learn, that is the most freeing thing to learn as well, because then you can actually focus on just making sure that you make ends meet, right?
Right.
Instead of, like, feeling like you're owed something. Because, like, as soon as you realize that nothing owes you shit, and sometimes things just happen, and it's not a moral failing, you're not working hard, it's just the way society is set up. It sucks, and it's scary, but at least you know that you're not a morally corrupt person.
Or superior.
Right.
Or superior. Like, that's the thing, too, is, like, people are like, well, I'm going through all this trauma, and none of it is my fucking fault. And it's meant for me to overcome, and it is my destiny to find justice. I'm fighting. Nah, dude, you just made some bad moves.
And those are the last people you ever want to help, because as soon as you help them, they'll never see it as you help them. They'll see it as, oh, it's part of my journey, right?
Right.
And then they'll fuck you over for a second. They'll never help you because you're not a part of their journey.
Right. If you can't contribute to their delusion, you're the enemy.
Versus being a more societal. I mean, that's the problem with the American dream right now, too, is it's so individualistic, and everyone's journey is individual versus a more collaborative approach.
There is nothing more brutally dishonest than the American narrative. We are a cruel, callous country that incarcerates more people per capita than the rest of the world. We already know this. We are a police state that violently oppresses dissension, puts whistleblowers in jail. We bomb other countries with impunity. And we're also so unserious about the way that our story goes. Like, we demand this kind of individual greatness from everybody. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps bullshit. But the situations is created where it's almost impossible to do that. And if you can't do that, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
You're a moral failure. You're disgusting, the way that we treat homelessness in this country. You failed morally. It's not that multiple private equity firms own 90% of the properties in your area and you can't afford a rent or your mortgage anymore. It's that you failed. You're a drug addict. You're a mental case. You don't deserve to live. In fact, we're going to make it illegal to kill you. In fact, we're going to design entire cities around the idea that you having the pleasure, the privilege, not the necessity to sleep, will be designed against. Anti-homeless architecture. People were hired to figure out a way to prevent human people from sleeping. One of the most necessary things for being alive.
Well, and that's interesting too.
Grotesquerie.
Right. And also, I do think it's a moral failing on our societies. Like, we're scared of that stuff, so we can't even see it. It's like how we're scared of death, right? So then the funeral industry pops up of like, now we got to put makeup on the dead body. Like, that's so fucking weird when you think about it.
Oh my God, that's a really good point. That is so weird. Why do I have to stare at your dead body? I didn't see my dad. My dad's a fat fucking box of ashes. And I only remember him as he was.
Right.
Thank God.
Right.
If he was so garishly made up, and listen, if you're good at it, but yes, the idea that we have to make up these people to give them this idea of life because we have to we have to mourn them in this elaborate celebration when set that shit on fire and let's move on, man.
Yeah.
Let's just get on with it. I can tell you that I practiced a eulogy forever for my father over and over and over again, thinking there'd be some kind of funeral with people.
Right.
Nothing. No one cared.
Yeah,
and at first it was heartbreaking, but you know what? He didn't care, and he's gone. Who cares?
Because it's never for the person who's gone.
Right.
Right? And that, like, that was actually one thing that I did learn from the Jake experience is at first, like, his mom made the funeral for her, right? And at first I was like, oh, it wasn't like Jake, but like, it wasn't for Jake. It was for the family. The family now has the right to say like, oh, this is the person we remember and this is how we want to remember them. That's how it is, you know?
Yeah.
That's their right. And that's fucking, yeah. It makes sense to me, right? And I used to be like, oh, I didn't honor the dead like it should have. But like, who gives a fuck? They're not who gives a fuck, but like, they're dead. They're gone now. So like, now it's just the memory. So this is a huge deviation from the movie.
Not really, because we're talking about the illusion and the delusion that we force on people in this country to allay their fears.
Right.
Of poverty, of death, of the realistic human experience.
Yeah.
And the idea that a Michael Bay movie's got me thinking all this stuff is crazy to me.
If Michael Bay's name had not been on it, would you have known it's a Michael Bay movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I wouldn't have.
I
Because of the violence, or why?
Because he's got a very specific aesthetic.
Because of
the way that he shoots even the most mundane scene is so excessively Michael Bay.
Really?
I could tell that it was a Michael Bay movie, and I would have been able to tell it was a Michael Bay movie because I grew up on Michael Bay movies.
That's true. I didn't.
Like, Bad Boys is one of my favorite movies. The Rock is an incredible film. I loved Armageddon. Bad Boys 2, like, it's his look is a thing, and I can tell when it's a Michael Bay movie. What is interesting is that it is the first time, perhaps, I think it's Michael Bay's best movie, in the same way that, like, I think The Rock is actually probably the most entertaining movie. But just like with my favorite Tarantino movie is either The Hateful Eight or Kill Bill, his best movie is Jackie Brown. I think it's his most precisely assembled film.
I'd agree.
And the most, the one that, other than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think is great, but is Tarantino-esque.
Right.
I think he very much applied his style subtly to a heist movie, and it elevated it because he brought his style but kept it low key.
Right.
Pain and Gain is the same way. The fact that it's sandwiched between maybe one of the worst films ever made, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, and then the next worst movie in this guy's portfolio, Transformers: Dark of the Moon. In between those, he decided to make a little indie flick that the reasons why people do not like the Transformers movies and do not like Michael Bay's style, he subverts that in this movie because all of those techniques were used to enhance the violence, the machismo, the excess of every scene. In this one, it is meant as kind of a parody of his own style. Mm-hmm. He's using it to elevate the status of people who think that they're the heroes but aren't. They're the losers.
Right.
So you've got this constant narration from the guy who thinks he's the hero and these constant wide angles and low angles, and visually it seems like a celebration of his life. But what he's saying and what he's doing and what it's actually showing is the opposite of what it's supposed to be portraying.
Right.
The way that he wants you to think that it is.
Right.
It reminded me a bit of David Fincher's Killer, The Killer, where it's shot super slickly. And there's this narration from the main character who thinks that he's telling you how good he is, but he's actually terrible at his job. Mm-hmm. He's awful. Mm-hmm. He messes up every scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Daniel Lugo in the final scene where there are all the cops waiting for him, and all he can talk about with the guy in the helicopter is his pecs. Yeah.
That's
fucking crazy.
He's working out.
Yeah.
When they show up.
Yeah.
Because he has to keep going. And listen, I've had an eating disorder before. I get it.
Yeah, same.
It's crazy how your obsession manifests itself.
Yeah.
It was just working out. And so I think that Michael Bay, it's interesting to watch a filmmaker tell you that he is hyper aware of how he is perceived in the industry. And using those techniques to do somewhat of a 180 on the themes of his entire portfolio.
Right.
And to say something profound about the American dream and then go off and make another $1 trillion on terrible Transformers movies. Because he made 3 more Transformers movies, and they get worse and worse and worse. Now...
Do you think that's a Daniel Lugo parallel?
But the thing is, Michael Bay has the money. He's earned the money through hard work. Now, I would argue that I think the later Transformers movies can be argued as the work of an abstract artist in his peak period, because the movies don't make any sense, but visually, they're some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in terms of use of CGI.
Interesting.
They're bad. They're terrible movies. But the way that the Transformers, the way that he shoots things that are not there, the way that he has a vision in his head and storyboards this idea of a battle that does not exist and shoots that area that can then be filled in by CGI artists, you can talk all the shit you want, and I will, because they are bad films. But his vision is pure,
like The Fall,
and exciting. The Fall is Tarsem Singh is a beautiful visualist, and he's a terrible filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Zack Snyder is a beautiful cinematographer, and he's a terrible filmmaker. I think some people get that eventually. I think what happened with like Mark Romanek, who made 1 Hour Photo, which is a beautiful film.
We should watch that one next.
Yes, we should watch that soon. He realized that he hated making movies and just wanted to go back to photography.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, Michael Bay, and he kind of did it recently with Ambulance. Ambulance is a fun little treat that looks like it costs to him $5, mm-hmm. and it takes place in one location, and it's just really fun.
Everyone seems to be having fun in it. That's the fun part of it, right? Do you think it would have worked if the cast wasn't having as much fun?
Well, if you didn't have Jake Gyllenhaal being we're talking about Ambulance, or are we talking about
I thought you were talking
Pain&Gain?
Ambulance.
Ambulance, yeah. If Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't having as much fun, no one else would have been having as much fun.
Right.
And that's, with Pain&Gain, I think what's fascinating about it, this is the last time Mark Wahlberg made an effort.
Yeah.
He was brilliant in Boogie Nights and then did a bunch of action garbage in the 2000s. He was in The Other Guys with Will Ferrell, which was kind of a subversion of his character.
Mm-hmm.
He's good in that, but he is brilliant in this movie. The way that he plays that character is incredible. He's subtle when he needs to be, and he's over the top when he needs to be, and he knows when to rein it in. He knows how to use his body. It's crazy how good he is in this, and I do not like Mark Wahlberg. I think he's bad.
Did you like him in this? It was hard not to like him in this movie, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is like...
I had a moment of that when they were in the warehouse, and he was trying to figure out how to chainsaw the bodies.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, this is the same Mark Wahlberg who is a born-again Christian who, like... This can't be, because I love this man right now. He's wonderful.
He's wonderful. And he knows the way that he controls his eyes when he's yelling. Like, exactly. There's overacting and yelling, and right. There's to control the tone
right.
while you're overacting is incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
He does it. The way that he yells at people and then pulls it back, his desperation when he's in the self-help seminar, it's all there. He's brilliant in it. And again, Anthony Mackie is just reliably good in it. There's nothing too much or too little to say about him. He's just great.
Mm-hmm. He is.
And Rebel Wilson, he's great. I'm glad Anthony Mackie's getting his flowers. He's the new Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
He looks great in the Brave New World new Captain America trailer. It's so good to see him. He's been around forever. I was watching the Manchurian Candidate remake from 2002 the other day. He's in the opening of that. He's been working.
I wonder if he's still drinking that breast milk that he got off of Facebook Marketplace.
What are you talking about?
Remember the strip club scene where he offers The Rock the breast milk?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wonder if he's still on that game.
That's why he's so big and tough.
Exactly.
But again, I can't stress enough. Ed Harris is great. Tony Shalhoub as Kershaw is great. Tony Shalhoub was just coming off a monk.
He has it.
He was coming off a monk where he was like this sweet little guy for so long. He's been the sweet little guy for so long. I remember him from Back in Wings on USA. So for him to play that character against type was so great.
So good.
Yeah.
His eyes were fucking horrifying in it.
Yeah. Ed Harris was great. There was a Peter Stormare cameo where he played the guy who was injecting dude's dick. He's great.
Oh, yeah.
Just a lot of... I think that maybe have been where David Cordry and The Rock met, because he ended up on Ballers as his business partner.
That's what it seems like, right? I was wondering the timeline there.
It's just really well done. It's a beautiful...
The setting was really good, too. Whoever did the location scout was really good.
Well, that's what's funny about it, is because the way that he shot Miami in all of his movies has always been this, like, super glossy, super nightclubby, Miami Beach, constant run over. He uses the plane shot of Miami that he always uses in his Miami movies, but it's to establish a shot that shows how poor Daniel is. And just the way just subverts every one of his techniques, every trope that he's known for, every visual piece of visual flair that he's known for. He subverts it in the name of a story that was worth telling. And it's interesting that Michael Bay thought that this was an interesting story worth telling, since he's trafficked so much in kind of this ersatz American dream narratives throughout his entire career, with, you know, The Rock and Armageddon, of course, being an example of that. So it's made me respect him a lot more, and I forgive him a lot more for his cinematic trespasses. I'm looking at you the last night. It was a really exciting movie, and coming back to it was kind of fascinating to me, because I put it on as a fluke. It was like a little fun thing to watch, and I couldn't believe how powerful it was. If you haven't seen it, it's so worth checking out now, especially if you haven't seen it ever. Now in 2024 is the perfect time to watch this movie.
I mean, it rings different now, absolutely, right? I mean, especially after COVID. The first time I had seen it, I was 8 years into working for a company. I only knew, it was tough. I wasn't making a ton of money, but there was stability there, right?
Right.
And now COVID happened. Everyone lost their job. Nobody knew what was going on. Since I've been through 2 layoffs in 4 years, I know I'm not alone in that. I think we all understand this instability, this like trying to desperately grasp onto the normalcy of just stability, right?
Yeah.
Stability that economic wealth can give you.
That's exactly it. And after going through like years now of like almost projects and projects falling through and getting hired and getting fired, and it just like the cycle is insane, and it makes you have empathy for the people in this movie. Because when we watched it in 2013, it's very easy to go, as you said before, Lugo bad, Kershaw good,
right?
Sort of, but it's
if he's flawed,
yeah,
still like, well, you
exactly. Right. And now, frankly, burn it down.
Well, right. Yeah.
So
I think we're at late stage capitalism. Everyone's throwing that term around, but we're at the point where if you have excessive wealth and you're not sharing, like it's not the wealth of the yesteryear where Carnegie is building Carnegie Hall, right? Where people are investing in art museums and
right.
things like that. Now it's like, I saw a stupid meme that's like, why is another celebrity making another beverage company? Don't we have enough beverages? We have so many beverages, right?
Right.
Like, what's the point of the wealth now if it's just cycling back to them versus being distributed to the masses?
There is no attempt on the part of the ruling class to offer any kind of hope for sustainability to everyone below them. And they think that they're too stupid to notice.
Right.
And that is going to wreak havoc in the near future. It's already been happening across Europe, and we'll see if it happens here.
I think we're too burned out. I was just talking with a friend about this morning. We're too burned out to do anything at this point, which is sad, right? I know I am. Like, I would love to be out, like, protesting the RNC right now. Love to be doing it. But I am so fucking burned out, and I have no, with what vacation? And I have to pay my, and that sounds so arbitrary and so anti-revolutionary, but it's reality.
And on that incredibly inspiring note, clearly, 10 out of 10, Pain&Gain.
What?
A movie, perfect movie for the moment. Get mad because you can't get even.
Yeah.
That's going to be it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Dead-Eyed Millennial Film Club. My name is Jason Hillman.
And I'm Becky Franzel.
And we believe in fitness.
Cool.
I'll see you next time.
Pecs.
Yeah. A pecs on your house.
That's fun. I like that.